la faut. David stared out at the vast ocean, his heart heavy with a longing he couldn't name. The waves crashed against the shore, their rhythmic roar a constant reminder of his own inner turmoil. Life in the village felt small and stifling. He yearned for something more, something beyond the daily routines and familiar faces. David spent his days fishing with his father, mending nets and hauling in the day's catch. The salty air filled his lungs, the sun tanned his skin, but none of it brought him peace. A deep sense of emptiness lingered, a void he couldn't fill. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, David decided to take a walk. He needed to clear his head, to escape the suffocating feeling that had been weighing him down. He wandered along the beach, the sand cool beneath his feet. The waves whispered secrets he couldn't understand. As darkness descended, David felt more alone than ever. Desto, as David walked, he noticed a figure sitting on a dune, silhouetted against the dying light. The man sat peacefully, gazing out at the sea. Curiosity piqued, David approached him. The man looked up, his face etched with age and wisdom. His eyes, though crinkled at the corners, held a spark of kindness. "Good evening, young man," he greeted, his voice warm and gentle. "Good evening," David replied hesitantly. He sat down on the sand, a safe distance from the stranger. "It's a beautiful night," he offered, unsure what else to say. "It is," the man agreed, "a night for reflection, wouldn't you say?" He introduced himself as Simon, a traveler passing through. David found himself pouring out his heart to this kind stranger. He spoke of his search, his restless season, his longing for something more. Simon listened patiently, his gaze never wavering from the young man's face. When David finished, Simon smiled. "Your heart seeks a firm foundation, young man," he said, his voice filled with understanding. "Let me share a story with you." Simon proceeded to recount the parable of the wise and foolish builders from the teachings of Jesus. He spoke of two houses, one built on sand, the other on rock. When the storms came, the house on sand crumbled, while the house on rock stood firm. "Life is full of storms, David," Simon explained, his voice low and steady. "Troubles will come, doubts will arise, but it's the foundation you build upon that determines your ability to weather them. Section 4. Building on the Rock. David listened intently, his heart pounding in his chest. Simon's words resonated deep within him, awakening a glimmer of hope he hadn't realized was missing. "So what is the rock?" David asked, his voice barely a whisper. Simon smiled gently. "The rock, my dear boy, is Jesus Christ. His teachings, His love, His sacrifice. That is the foundation upon which you must build your life." He went on to explain that faith in Jesus wasn't just about believing, but about doing. "It's about hearing His words and putting them into practice," Simon said, his eyes twinkling. "It's about loving your neighbor, forgiving your enemies, and living a life of integrity." David felt a surge of determination. He wanted to build his life on something solid, something unshakable. He wanted the peace and purpose that Simon seemed to possess. Section 5. Abiding in the Vine. They spent the next few days together, with Simon sharing more wisdom from the teachings of Jesus. He spoke of the importance of remaining connected to Jesus, like branches to a vine. Just as a branch can do nothing apart from the vine, he explained, so we can do nothing apart from Christ. David learned about the Holy Spirit, the constant companion and guide that Jesus promised to his followers. Simon explained that the Holy Spirit would give David strength, comfort, and direction in life. In Section 6. The fruits of obedience. But how do I know if I'm truly connected to Jesus? David asked one afternoon, his brow furrowed in thought. He was eager to put these teachings into practice, but he wasn't sure how. "Ah, a good question," Simon exclaimed, his eyes twinkling. "The proof is in the fruit, young David." He went on to explain that a life lived in obedience to Jesus would produce good fruit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And these qualities won't magically appear overnight, Simon cautioned. It's a process, a journey of faith and obedience, but as you draw closer to Jesus, you will find these fruits growing in your own life. Section 7. Finding Peace in the Storm. As the days turned into weeks, David felt a sense of peace he had never known before. He started each day with prayer. Seeking guidance from the Holy Spirit, he made a conscious effort to apply Jesus' teachings in his interactions with others, showing patience with his younger siblings, offering a helping hand to his neighbors, and forgiving a friend who had wronged him. The storms of life still came, as Simon had promised they would. David faced challenges and disappointments, moments of doubt and uncertainty, but now he had a solid foundation to stand on. He had the love of Jesus and the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Looking out at the ocean one evening, David no longer felt the once plagued him. The waves still crashed, but they no longer mirrored the turmoil within him. He had found his purpose, his anchor in the storm. He had built his life on the rock.